We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 73a. And the previous Amud Reish Lakish said that when it comes to the Charav HaMurkav and the Sadan HaShikma, which is the developed carob tree and the developed sycamore tree, so if a person is makdish his land, that's going to be a machlokas between Rabbi Menachem and Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan in terms of whether those trees are also hektish. The Rabbanan are going to say that the trees are hektish, and Rabbi Menachem and Rabbi Yossi is going to hold like Rabbi Shimon that when the person is makdish, he does it be'ayin ra, he does it not generously, and therefore he keeps that land underneath the tree for himself, as well as the tree itself that he keeps for himself, and therefore they are not hektish. And the Gemara continues, V'leima machlokas Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbanan. Why does he say it's a machlokas between Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi, and the Rabbanan? And then he's teaching us that Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi holds like Rabbi Shimon. He should have simply said it's a machlokas between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan, because that also would have been a chiddush. As the Rashbam explains, V'leima machlokas Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbanan. He should have said it's a machlokas between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. Again, Rabbi Shimon saying ba'ayin ra makdish, that he's not being makdish generously, and so therefore he retains for himself the Sadan HaShikma and the Charav HaMurkav and the lands beneath it. Those are not going to be hektish, and that's a chiddush, as the Rashbam says, v'hava mashmalon, because he would be teaching us the Rabbi Shimon l'divrayim the Rabbanan ka'amar lahu, that Rabbi Shimon, when he's talking to the Rabbanan, he is talking l'divrayim the Rabbanan. He's saying, according to your opinion, you should at least say this much, keda amran la'el, as we explained earlier, meaning to say Rabbi Shimon is saying to the Rabbanan, even if you're going to say that something is going to be hektish along with the field, I understand that you might say that by the various trees, but to say that that extends to other items that you normally wouldn't sell along with the field, how could you say that? The imi masnisan hava amina, because if only from the Mishnah, let's say we only had the Mishnah and not Reish Lakish, I would have thought the becharav v'shikma modi lahu, that when it comes to the charav and shikma, Rabbi Shimon actually agrees with the Rabbanan, but that's not true. Kedektani behedya el charav hamurkav, because from the language of Rabbi Shimon, it actually sounds like he's agreeing with the Rabbanan by these trees, and he's saying that these trees are hektish, but no, we're saying that's not the case. Rabbi Shimon is saying that the trees are not hektish, and he's saying to the Rabbanan, I understand if you would say the trees are hektish, but you shouldn't go further than that. Mashma devecharav v'sadan modi lahu, Rabbi Shimon the Rabbanan. Someone could have inferred that Rabbi Shimon admits to the Rabbanan when it comes to the charav and the sadan, and so therefore, again, why didn't Reish Lakish simply say it's a machlokas between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan? And the Gemara continues, hakamash malon, what he's teaching us is, meaning what Reish Lakish is teaching us is, the Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon svirulei. He wants to teach us that Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi holds like Rabbi Shimon, and the Rashbam explains, hakamash malon ha'adiva lashmin, and it was preferred for Reish Lakish to teach us the ahid Rabbi Shimon memela shaminalei, because then once we know Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi agrees with Rabbi Shimon, and we also know they're both arguing with the Rabbanan, we understand both things. To l'divrayim the Rabbanan kamar lu, we understand that Rabbi Shimon is just arguing according to the perspective of the Rabbanan, k'dedaikinan mi brayso le'el, as we inferred from the brayso earlier. Hadron aloch hamocher es habayis. We will return to you parak hamocher es habayis. This is the end of the fourth parak of Meseches Bava Basra. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, like, share, and subscribe, and take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the fifth parak of Meseches Bava Basra. And the parak begins with the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, hamocher es asfina, one who sells a ship, mocher es hatoren, v'es hanes, v'es ha'ogen, v'es kol hamanhigen osa. He sells with it the toren and the nes and the ogen, and all of the equipment used to guide it. Avol lo mocher lo es ha'avodim, v'lo es ha'martzufen, v'lo es ha'antiki, but he does not sell along with the ship the slaves that are helping to work the ship, and the martzufen, which is the bags that the merchandise is packed in, and the antiki refers to the merchandise itself. Those are not sold along with the ship. But if he says that I'm selling the ship and everything within it, so then everything, all of these items, are sold together with the ship. And the Rashbam explains, hamocher es hasfina stam. Again, he sells a ship stam. He doesn't actually include any details. So the things that are included are the Torah and v'nes v'ogen v'chol hamanhigen b'gemara mefarshi. The Gemara will explain all of these items. But not included is the avodim, the slaves, sheyesh lo lebal hasfina l'hanhiga. This refers to the slaves that the owner of the ship has to help to guide the ship. V'lishmor prakmatya shalosh besoch, and also they're in charge of watching over the merchandise on the ship. And also not included in the sale is the martzufin, which are the packing bags that the merchandise is put in. Loses besochen antiki, you put the antiki, you put the merchandise inside the martzufin. Dahainu prakmatya shel sfina, again the antiki refers to the merchandise of the ship. Kedem mefarish b'gemara, as the Gemara will explain. And the Rashbam continues, v'chol haninami lesnu b'chlal hektish. The same is true. Let's say we're talking about the halachas of hektish, of being makdish. Shem hektish es hasfina, let's say he consecrates the ship, ship, lo hikdash elo eselu, he's not going to consecrate these items. Midlo katani lo bepirkin delael, and the way we know this is that this was not learned in the parak earlier. V'hainu tam, and the reason is the chol hani dechashivna bepirkin delael, everything that we talked about in the earlier parak, beis hamerchatz, beis habad, ve'ir, v'sodeh, all of the items we talked about, the bathhouse, the olive press, the cities and the fields, kulam mikarkoininu, that all refers to things that are essentially land. V'chol hani dechashiv lo machar betelim ksas agabon lagabe hekdesh umatana, and everything we said, all the items that are not sold along with the land, so we say that it's essentially nullified when it comes to hekdesh or matana. It's nullified together with the hekdesh and the matana, and it might be included. V'chaluk achin, or if brothers are dividing the property, that's true when we're talking about land items. We can make those distinctions between sales and gifts and other types of division. Avalhani, but in these cases, avalhani the high pirka, but when we're talking about the items in this parak, in hamocher sasvina, metaltalin, and we're talking about movable objects, loshna mecher, veloshna matana v'hekdesh, we don't make these distinctions between sales and gifts and hekdesh. Kulan shavin bahanu de lo machar, it's all going to be the same. Things that are not sold are also going to not be given as gifts, etc. Shekashem shelo machar kemokein lo hekdesh velo nasan, just like he's not selling it, so too he's not being makdash it, and he wouldn't be giving it as a gift. And the Gemara says Torah, and what is the Torah referred to in the Mishnah? Iskaria, that refers to the mast. V'chein hu omer erez milavanun lakachu lasos Torah aloyich. And so it says in the pasuk, there's a pasuk in Yechezkel that mentions the Torah, and it's talking about the mast. And Nes refers to Idra. The Nes refers to Idra. Idra is essentially the sail. V'chein hu omer, and similarly it says in the pasuk in Yechezkel, Sheish berikma mi mitzrayim haya mifrosech lios lach lenes. It mentions this item. It's talking about the sail. And then the Mishnah said, Ogin and Tani Rabbi Chia taught, Elu Oginin Shalah. When we talk about the Ogin, we're talking about the anchor. V'chein hu omer, and likewise it says in the pasuk, there's a pasuk in Rus, it says Halohein Tesaberna Ad Asher Yigdalu Halohein Teogena Levilti Heyos Leish. Now this pasuk over here, as we'll see in the Rashbam, it's talking about the fact that they're agunos, that they're chained in their marriages, and that's the same idea as an anchor. It keeps the ship in place. We'll see the Rashbam on this in a moment. And manhigin, what does manhigin refer to? Literally, it means the equipment that's used to guide the ship. Amar Rabbi Abba says, Elo hamishot in shalah. This refers to the oars that are used on the ship. V'chein hu omer, and likewise it says in the pasuk, this is a pasuk in Yechezkel, Alonim miboshan asu mishotayich. Now here it doesn't actually use the word manhigin, and the Rashbam will explain. It's talking about the oars, why this shows that manhigin is oars. V'bayis ema mehachin. If you want, I could say it's from here, from the following pasuk, also a pasuk in Yechezkel. The pasuk says, V'yardu me'aniosehem kol tofsei mashot, again referring to the oars, and the Rashbam will discuss again how that relates to the Mishnah, which is using the term manhigin. The Rashbam says Askaria refers to the mast, like we said, the mast. Sheporsin olav es havilon b'rosh asfina. The mast was used. That's what they put the sail. The sail was put on the mast. That's where they spread it. V'cheinu omer erez milavanon ra'ila davar the Torah and the masnis and hainu Askaria. This is a proof that the Torah of our Mishnah refers to the mast. Sho Askaria me erez, because the Askaria is from cedar. Or me ilan gavoa osanosa. They make it from a large tree. So that's why it says erez milavanon, talks about the cedar, and it uses that same word. It uses the word Torah. So we see we're talking about the mast. And then we had the Idra, who havilon sheparsam ala Torah. And again, the Nes is the Idra. That refers to the sail itself. And that's the sail itself that they would spread on the mast, laholich as asfina baruach, that way the wind could carry the ship. V'cheinu omer, and it says so in the pasuk, dainu idra sha'asu mi pishtim v'kanvos min beged. We know the pasuk is talking about this because that's what the sail is made out of. It's made out of this kind of linen and canvas. And then we talk about the oginin, and the oginin refers to the anchor, as we learn from the pasuk, which talks about aguna. Ankares shel barzel mashlichin b'mayim lahamid hasvina. They throw the anchor into the water that the ship should stay still b'makom echad, in one place. V'cheinu omer, and that's what it says in the pasuk. The igon into masnisim lashon ikovu. The whole idea is that the word igon in the Mishnah is holding it in place. Kedechsev halohin toagena kemot tasena tesakvu milihinase labal. They're held back from marrying a husband. Alma ogen the masnisim hainu igon. You see that ogen, it's used in the same fashion. And meshutos refers to shakorin raimam shemeshotetin b'anas hasvina. That's the oars. V'cheinu omer alonim mibashan asum mishotayich. and that's what it says in the pasuk Mishotoyich. It doesn't use the word over here of manhigin, but the Rashbam explains Besvina Ma'ari Yecheskel. This pasuk is talking about a ship in Yecheskel, v'kachashav tashmishay asvina, and it talks about the different items that are used in a boat. V'keileh, all of the different equipment. Umidikachashav hamashotos, and from the fact that it mentions the oar, shmamina de ikar tashmishay asvina, and you see that is a main part of the ship, and imkarim bechlal asvina, and it too should be sold along with the ship. And therefore we say, that's what it means to say kol hamanhigin, that which guides the ship. It's including the oars. And the pasuk also says, "Kol tofse mosho." The Gemara quoted that pasuk, "Alma ikar hasvina al yedei shetofsim meshutos." You see that the main thing in a ship is that they hold these meshotos, these oars. The salgadai dechamina chavolim hamoshchin hasvina l'havi ikar manhigin. One might have thought it's the ropes that draw the ship. Aval meshotos lom is davni. Maybe you would think that the oars are not included. What we're really saying is, maybe you would think it's only the ropes, and we're trying to say from these psukim, no, it includes the oars as well. Kamash malon. That's why the Gemara is bringing these psukim. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, HaMocher Asfina, one who sells a ship, Mocher Eso Iskala, he sells the ramp that's used to get on the ship as well. V'yas bor hamayim shebesochen, also the water tank in the ship that is also sold along with the ship. Rabbi Nosson says, HaMocher Asfina Mocher Es HaBitzitz. If somebody sells the ship, he is selling the bitzitz along with the ship. We'll see in a moment what that means. Sumches Omer, Sumches says, Hamochres Asfina Mochres Hadugis. When somebody sells a ship, he sells the dugis as well, and the Gemara will explain that as well. And the Rashbam explains, Asachlo Kevesh Shal Hasfina, that refers to the ramp of the ship, Sha'ulinbo, they use it to go up onto the ship. Veloshan Yovan, that's a Greek word. V'chein Perush Rach V'Ravhai, that's what Rabbi Chanan and Ravhai also explain. Bor Hamayim Shebesocha, that refers to the water tank in the ship. Nosen Bo Mayim Hamesukin, Lafi Shemei Hayam Meluchin, they put water in there that people can drink, because you can't drink the water from the sea because it's salty. And the Gemara then mentioned bitzitz vidugis. What are those? Hainu sfina ketana. That refers to the small ships that you attach to the larger ship. Let's say you need to go into shallow waters to ship, or let's say you need to use these smaller boats for an emergency, for a life-saving emergency. Shakoshin lasfina gadol, they would tie these to the large ship. Uchesherotzen lalos liabasha, let's say they wanted to go to the dry land. Nechnasin ba'usa ketana mehagadola, they would go into the smaller ship from the larger one. Again, that's the idea, to go to the shallower areas. Shagadola ini yechol eskariv el svas hayam mimnei omka, because the larger ships couldn't go towards the edge of the sea, because again it went too deep. You couldn't go in these shallow waters. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Bitzitz hainu dugis, bitzitz is dugis, it's the same thing as we said in the Rashbam. It refers to these small boats that are attached to the larger ship. Rabbi Nosson Bavla have a korila butzis. Rabbi Nosson, the Babylonian, he referred to it as butzitz, that's what he called these smaller ships. Kedam Riinchi, it's like the expression that people use, butziyosa de Meshon, that's the small ships of Meshon. And Sumchis the Bar Eretz Yisrael, Sumchis who was from Eretz Yisrael, korila dugis, he referred to the small ships by the term dugis, kedechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk. There's a pasuk in Amos. It says in the pasuk v'acharischen besiros duga, and that pasuk is referring to small ships, and that's the term that Sumchis used. And the Gemara continues at the Tudat. Sama Rabba says, Ishto li nechusa yama, the seafarer is related to me. Haigalo de mitba l'sfina, if you have a wave that's threatening to sink a ship. Mischazi ki tzutzisa de nura chivarta beresha, it looks like a ray of white fire at its head. Umachinan le ba'alvasa de chakik oleh, and we strike it with a club that is carved upon. It's carved on the club the following, Eya shereya, ko Hashem tzavakos, amen, amen sela. Those are the words that are written on the club, v'nayich, and then the wave rests. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba says, Ishtoli nechusa yama, the seafarer is related to me. Bein gala legala, between one wave and the next, telos mea parsi is 300 parsa. Veruma de gala telos mea parsi, and the height of the waves was 300 parsa in this particular area of the sea. Zim nechada havazlinan beorcha, one time we were traveling at the sea, vidalinan gola, ad chazinan be marbata de koch vazuta, the wave raised us so high that we were able to see the resting place of a small star. V'havali kimivzar arboin grivi bizra dechardel, it was in the area of a space where you would plant 40 saw of mustard seeds. That's how much space it took up. V'idalinan tvein, had it lifted us up any further, hava makalinan mehavle, we would have been burned from the heat of the star. And the Gemara continues, V'rami lo gola kola lechaverta, then one wave raised its voice to the next, and said to the next wave the following, Chaverti, my friend, shavakt midi bialma de lo shetafte, did you leave anything that you didn't wipe away? The nesi anov and abde, that I can come and wipe it away and destroy it. Amar lei, so that wave said back, Pok chazi gevurta demarach, go see the might of your master, of your creator. Melach chuta chala v'lo avri, even if there's a small string of sand, I'm not able to pass over it. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, there's a pasuk from Yirmiyahu, Ha'osi lo siroun Hashem, imipanai lo sachilu, asher samti chol gevul ayam, that I've placed the sand, it's like a boundary for the sea cannot pass. Chok olam v'lo yavrenu, and so therefore the wave was essentially saying, it's impossible, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created, it's impossible for me to pass over the sand. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba says, L'didi chazili Horman bar Lilis, I saw Horman bar Lilis, ki karoyet akufya deshura de Mechuzi, was running on the pinnacles of the wall of Mechuza, v'royet parsha ki rachiv chiyusa mituse, and there was a horseman that was riding on his animal below, down below at the bottom of the wall, v'lo yachele, and he wasn't able to keep up. Zimna chada, one time, have a misargan le tarti kud naisi v'kaiman, they saddled up 2 mules and they were standing, and the Rashbam explains, Amar Rabba ishto li, Rabba said that the seafarers, they told me, Kol hani uvde de kachosh, of all of the stories that we're going to see now, mishum mo rabu Masechet Hashem, it's to say the greatness of the creations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, umehen lahodia matan schoran shel tzadikim lasid lavo, some of them are to tell us the reward for the tzadikim in the future. Olafarish mikros ha'amur mesefer Eov, or to explain the psukim in Sefer Eov, hamedabrim ba'ofos gedolim, which speak about large birds, uvehemos v'dagim gedolim, and large animals, large fish, shekol sichas talmidei chachamim tzricha talmud, all of the conversation of the talmidei chachamim, it needs to be studied, it needs to be learned. And the Rashbam continues, Akufi Deshura, Horman, the son of Lilis, was running on the pinnacles of the wall, Al Shine Hachom, on the teeth of the wall, so to speak. The Hayuvd in this episode, Lohodiat Tzid Kosav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is trying to say the righteousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shemarachim Al Briyosov, that he has mercy on his creations, V'eino Nosein Rishus Le'elu Lahazik, and he doesn't give permission for these to do damage to his creations. V'gam Shelo Lotzes B'derech Yachid, also it's to teach that a person shouldn't go out on the road and be alone, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Beis.